All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar event. My name is Joshua, and I'm going to be your presenter. We're here to talk about adding, deleting, editing accounts in Church Windows Accounting. Before we get started on that, just a few technical things. I know folks have attended these before, but for those who have not attended, you have to bear with me while I go through my first 30, 60 seconds, 90 seconds of kind of the technical stuff here. If you've never attended a webinar event before, you're using a single monitor, use the little red arrow at the top of the sidebar there to minimize the webinar control panel. That allows you to get that out of the way and get the full visual effect of the webinar presentation. Or if you've got a dual monitor set up, just drag that off to your second desktop. Again, it allows you to see the full, everything that I'm doing on the screen here for us. We're going to be working together for the next 20 minutes or so. So I will be wrapping up my topic, at 20 minutes after, but no later than. I'll certainly be happy to stick around and answer questions for you if you have them. If you do have questions for me, please type those in the questions portion of the control panel there. I will try to keep an eye on those, and we'll see what we can do to get those answered for you. If not during the event, then certainly at the end. If you've seen what you came to see at any point, of course, you can choose or close out of the webinar interface, and that should just allow you to leave the webinar. Thank you very much in advance for attending. Please keep the questions topical, meaning about adding, deleting, or editing accounts. It's not because I don't want to answer them for you. I just may not be equipped either with the data or just my thought process, what have you. And it's so we just ask that you keep the questions on the topic at hand. There may be another webinar event upcoming that is on your question on the topic that you have a question about. Okay, so before we get started, just for those of you who are unaware of it, we're just really happy about this. I'm pointing you to the Church Windows YouTube channel. If you go to youtube.com and type in the search Church Windows Software, that'll take you to our YouTube channel. We've got hours and hours of movies here. A recording of today's event will be on our YouTube channel. Could be by the end of the day today, if not by first thing next week at the very latest. But I hope it'll be up there by later today. As I always joke on my support calls, pop yourself a big old bowl of popcorn and sit down, and you got hours of Church Windows entertainment here to keep you busy. All right. So please utilize this YouTube channel. It's here. It's free. There's no charge for it, and lots of users are giving us lots of positive feedback about it. Okay? All right, so we're going to talk about adding, deleting, editing accounts in accounting. This is taken directly from our A102 workbook. If you're interested in the workbooks, you can find those at our workbooks page or link on our website. Down here, we go to the workbooks. Here's a description of what each topic is involved in each one. We're going to be working in A102 here today. And you can order the downloadable or pre-printed workbooks here if you wish. But it's A102 pages 15 to 22. That's what I'm working with today. Okay? All right. Now, we're not going to be covering all of the add, delete, edit, editing, all the topics on that today, just that particular section of it. Okay? So when we go into accounting, the first one on page 15 on that talks about adding an account or fund from the chart of accounts tree view. And what it's mentioning there is when we go to either manage accounts and view in the top left, I'm talking about here, let me get out my highlighter, manage accounts right up here, and then view, or from our manage accounts window in the middle right here, it opens up our chart of accounts. Okay? So here's our chart of accounts. And what we're talking about on this, let me kind of create a little more real estate here, is right here on the Tree View tab on the right-hand side. Let me get my highlighter right here. Hopefully everybody can see that. Right there, Tree View. Okay? When we click on that Tree View, it reveals essentially our entire chart of accounts. All right? But it's broken down into basically our balance sheet accounts, assets, liabilities, and funds. Even though we may be seeing the income and expenses over here down on the left-hand side, the Tree View is simply our balance sheet accounts. And how I mean that, or what I mean by that, is that we do see the income and expense accounts as we drill down to our funds and we expand those funds. We do begin to see the income and expenses that are linked to each of those funds. Okay? So it shows the relationship of the income and expenses to their respective funds. I really like this. It's one of the features that I really like about accounting is this relationship that shows the funds with their subsequent income and expenses. I'm being asked, can this be printed? It can, Robin, but not from here. It can be printed from the report I recommend if you're wanting to look at something like the funds in terms of their relationship to that would be something like your fund activity report, the detailed fund activity report. I'll see if I can come back to that at the end here and see what we can't do to get more details of that. But what's not known about this tree view tab, and this is mainly why we're here, is you can add accounts here, you can add funds here, you can edit them, you can delete them, and this is really handy when we're wanting to work with just say one or two accounts, a couple or a handful. If we're wanting to do a major change to the chart of accounts, this is probably not where we would recommend doing that. But if you're wanting to manipulate or edit or add or change or delete a couple of specific accounts, this tree view is a very nice way to place an easy place to do that. So as an example, so if we say we want to add, the church has purchased a new CD, we want to add that account to our chart of accounts, I can simply right click over my assets at the top and notice it says add new asset. I simply click on that and it opens up my add account window and it says add a new asset account. So we're going to call this Huntington Bank CD. And we're going to number that 125300 or 100. There we go. And I can even go so far as to add it to the respective subtotal. So I'm going to add it to my current assets and investments, and I simply click OK. Notice now it's added that new Huntington Bank CD to my accounts, and I've dropped it into the proper subtotal where I want it to show on my reports. Okay? It's similar, you can do something similar when you're talking about like adding income or expenses too. So if say I want to add an income or an expense to a fund, I can simply go down to my funds, right click over something like my mission fund and notice it gives me an option that says it says add income account to mission fund or add expense. And if I click on either one of those, it opens up a very similar screen with asking me to enter a new account name and account number, and if I want to add it or move it into a specific subtotal as I'm adding it. Okay? But the key is, again, here, this sub menu that pops up when we right click on it is really what we're wanting to see. Is, a lot of folks aren't aware. You can right click to add or edit or delete accounts. Okay? All right, so you can also add a fund from the tree view as well. So if we right click on it, notice it says add a new fund. So if I click on that, and I click in here and I call this, notice this now there's three components here, fund, the fund balance account name, and the account number. These are all the components of the fund. So we're going to call this Fall Festival, if I could type today, fund, tab down, it adds the word balance to it, and now requires that I type in a 300 account for it. And again, it allows me to choose a subtotal within my funds. I don't have any other subtotals breakdowns within my funds, so we're just going to put it into total fund balances. Okay. Notice here this fund, however, is different from our other funds with the exception of net fixed assets in that it doesn't have a plus sign next to it because I haven't added income or expenses to it. Okay. If I had them, I could certainly relink them from another fund over to my new fund. But in this case, we don't. So we're going to right click over it and it says add fund subledger, add income, add expense. So I choose add income. I call this Fall Festival. If I could type, I'm having real problems with typing today. Income. And we're going to call this one, we're going to try 27100 on that. Now here I can choose a subtotal. I do have other subtotals within my income accounts. We'll choose other fund income, add account. Right click, choose add expense for Fall Festival Fund. We'll call this Fall Festival Expense. 527100. Again, I can choose a subtotal. Designated it wherever we want to put it. If not, it'll just throw it into total expenses, and we've added it. So there we go. Right from the tree view, we've added a new fund with its subsequent income and expenses. That quickly and easily right from the tree view. Okay? Any account type can be added from our tree view. Of course, that's not the only place where we can add accounts at our chart of accounts and on the tree view. If we go up to Manage Accounts here at the top left and go up to the Accounts Plus Minus, right here, everybody should see my highlighter here. Then we can click, and once we click on that, the buttons below it change to our various account types: assets, receivable clients, liabilities, accounts payable vendor, funds, income, expenses, what have you. Okay? So here we're going to add an accounts payable vendor. So we click on that. It opens up our Setup Chart of Accounts window. What I like to point out to folks here is that based on the account type that I'm choosing, notice down here, it shows my current list of accounts payable vendors down here in the bottom left-hand corner. So if I type it, brings up my ledger for accounts payable vendors, and I'm going to call this Kersey Tea House. And literally, I can click Add Account. All I need is a name to enter a vendor or an accounts payable vendor. That's all that's required. Okay. So now if I go down to these are listed alphabetically. There is no number to sort them by, but notice now we've got our Kersey Tea House listed as our vendor. Okay. Other accounts can be added in exactly the same manner. Okay. If I want to add, say, new income and expenses to accounts here, again, I would simply go up to, say, income at the very top. It opens up my Setup Chart of Accounts, and it is going to default to choosing a fund of some kind. In this case, it's our operating fund. So you do, because again, income and expenses are linked to fund, you have to make sure you're choosing the proper fund before adding the account. So look for the menu at the top called Current Funds. So in this case, we would be adding a grant account, income account to our building fund. So we're going to call this grant income, and we're going to number it 2115 and click, again, I can choose the subtotal, building fund income, add account. Okay. Okay, so this is where we can add accounts. So again, funds, and again, all the accounts, funds, income, expenses, everything can be added across the top in exactly the same way. If we now talk about deleting accounts, if we close out of here now and we go back to our Manage Accounts into our Chart of Accounts, we can also delete accounts from our tree view as well. So if I type in here Thanksgiving offering income, we've decided we're not going to need to track that income anymore. I highlight the income account. I go to my tree view tab. I right-click over it. I notice delete Thanksgiving offering income is available here. So the system knows there's no balance, there's no current year activity, there's nothing that I need that requires that this account be kept in my chart of accounts. I can simply click delete Thanksgiving offering income. It says, are you sure you want to delete it? Click yes. That account is gone from my 2016 chart of accounts. It's still in my previous year's chart of accounts if they were there, but it's no longer in my 2016 chart of accounts. Okay? The difference between other types of accounts and funds is that if I have any income and expenses that are linked to those, I have to deal with the linking of the income and expenses before I can then consider deleting the fund. So even if the fund has a zero balance, no activity, I have to deal with the income and expenses that are linked to it first. Okay? Once I've removed or relinked or deleted those income and expenses linked to that fund, I can probably come in here, right-click on the fund, and choose Delete Fund. Okay? All right. That's deleting the accounts from the Tree View tab. Again, use your right-click on it, folks. There's options in there. It'll tell you. So deleting accounts from using the menus. So if we again go back up to Manage Accounts and Accounts Plus Minus, and let's say we choose expenses, and again I'm having to choose my fund, so we're going to choose General Operating Fund. I think this was a question that came in earlier. is what is the NA for? It's in the delete box column down here on the down left-hand side. So again, we would choose the fund that we're wanting to remove or delete the account. And then down here, let me expand the window. Down here, we've got our delete column on the left-hand side. Notice delete right here. So any account that has NA in there is account that it sees either activity or ledger accounts, like right in these cases here, minister's salary and benefits is a ledger. I can't delete that because it has sub-accounts. Okay, but notice here things like supply pastor or musician salaries or any of them that have the delete checkmark box available in the delete column, the system sees are eligible for deletion in the current year. So simply we would just go down the list, just check the boxes that we're wanting for the accounts we're wanting to remove, click the delete selected accounts, and then it pops up with a menu that says, are you sure you want to delete these accounts? Let's not do this many. Here it is, delete repairs and maintenance, yes. Are you sure you want to delete custodian supplies, or do you want to delete office expenses? Okay, so the system won't let you delete accounts that are not permitted to be deleted. Okay, if you do delete an account you simply add it back to the chart of accounts. It's that simple. The system has built-in fail-safes that won't permit you to delete accounts that have any important information in the current year. Okay. Alrighty, so finally, with about 3.5 minutes left here, editing accounts. This is very important too. So right here we can do this either, notice right here on the right of our setup chart of accounts screen, which we got to by using the accounts plus minus, we've got our chart of accounts tab. It's essentially a tree view too. So I can do the same things there that I can do in the tree view that I can at the chart of accounts. So one of the things I want to show is, again, because this is a tree view just like the one at the chart of accounts, if I right click, notice I can choose edit. And a lot of folks are unaware of this. So if I want to edit an account, let's do it out. Let's go back to our chart of accounts to do it, just because it allows me to type and search for specific accounts. So senior citizens, my expense account. So if I now click on, now that I've highlighted that and it highlights the account, notice I can choose edit in the list. Okay. So there's numerous things I can do in the menu here, of course. In editing an account, I can, of course, either delete it. In this case, the senior citizens is, again, permitted for deletion. There's no activity in it. Wouldn't be in the menu if it were. I can either rename it, I can renumber it, or I can even change the subtotal. So if I choose Edit Senior Citizens, notice right here it brings up an edit account window where it allows me to edit the name, the number, or the subtotal where it belongs. I can even edit the number here. So if I go, okay, I want to change this to, 5, I don't know if it'll permit me to do it, 555. So let's do 555 and click OK. And it just allowed me to change that account number. Okay, it won't allow me to change it to another account, number that's already in use, and it would have barked at me if I did do that, if the number was in use by another account, or if there was an account name that had the same name. But it didn't. So it allowed me to change that account quickly and easily. So again, if you've got one or two or a couple things you need to change on your chart of accounts, that is an easy, quick way to be able to do that. If you have major changes to make to your chart of accounts, we would recommend going up to, say, special functions, and right here the change account number structure, which then opens our renumber chart of accounts window where you can make large en masse changes to your actual accounts in one fell swoop. Okay, but we're not going to discuss that today. So that is our 6 or 7 page topic, folks. We're done with that. So it looks like we've got a number of questions here. So I'm finished with what I'm talking about a minute early or so. So if you need to leave, please do so. But let me see what questions we've got here. All right, so Kathy, I answered what the NA was stand for. The account's not eligible for deletion. Are the changes you are making for the current year? Absolutely. When I make changes to any of the chart of accounts, Mary Beth, they occur only in the accounting year that I'm working in, and it does not affect any other accounting year. Good question. Older funds I have deleted still show as inactive accounts. I want to reuse the account number, but it won't let me because there was an old account with that number. Patricia, that might require a call to Church Windows support for that. But simply what I would do is I would just delete the old account and then just add it back and just re-enter the number for your new account. It depends on the kind of account you're talking about or asking about. But yeah, I mean, if you delete it, basically it wipes out that old account, any record of it in the current year, and then just go ahead and re-add it back with, whatever account type it was, and then just, enter your new name, and you can recycle the number, of course. I hope that answers that for you. But if you have questions about it, please call us. All right, I'm waiting to see if anybody else is adding any other questions here. That's all. I thought there were more than that, but I wasn't really paying attention. So, okay, I know this questions sometimes take a couple minutes to pop in, or to type in. So let's see if any of those come in. Again, if you have to leave, by all means, please do. Thank you so much. We hope to see you at another future webinar. All right, Kathy, at the beginning of the webinar, how do we find this webinar on the YouTube channel? That's a good question. If we go back to youtube.com/church windows, I would recommend using either the search window right here, the search box, the little magnifying glass. I think we actually have another webinar event from a previous year that talks about deleting accounts. Yeah, deleting accounts in accounting years, which is on the remaining portion of the deleting accounts. But right here, yeah, if you just type in there, I think if you just type in deleting, it'll come up. You might have to filter through it, or you can go to the playlists and maybe just look at the entire list of those that are on, say, accounting. So right here, we just stop the one, and then all of the accounting webinar events are listed right here. All 47 or 43 of them at this point. Great question. Yeah, Lynette, I'm sorry, that's not a topic for today. Giving accounts are different because of the fact that if the only way you can delete giving accounts and donations is if they have no activity. If there's activity of any kind, no matter how old, giving accounts and donations can't be deleted. It's that simple. There's no way to purge those out right now. There may be something we add in future to that, but for right now, there's not. Looking to print a complete chart of accounts for a review to create a new year. Great, that's a great question. If we go to, let me close out of my browser here, go back to Church Windows, Reports and Export, Worksheets, right here, List Chart of Accounts, Robin. That's your chart of accounts. Just make sure to include accounts with zero balance, and there's your entire chart of accounts. Yep. Yeah, so once you choose Include a Chart of Accounts, choosing the proper accounting year, click Print. It'll be the entire chart of accounts all the way from assets all the way through expenses. Good. All right, well, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in here, folks. We ran a little bit long. I hope that's okay. If you have other questions, please call support, or we hope to see you at another Church Windows webinar event. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar for everybody. We hope it's been helpful, and thank you all so much. Take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye.